this guy was considered to really be a center point of the manipulation, the control, and the bribery that goes on in the global pyramid of power that we've referenced so much, right? Hello, welcome, and finally, I'm in front of camera again on Bitstocks TV, Bitstocks Media, which is great. And secondly, what better to return back to screen on other than Truth and Light episode 2. So we've had a lot of thought going behind how we're going to restructure Bitstocks Media, how we're really going to ramp up our efforts moving forward. And we want Truth and Light to remain in the essence of what the first episode was all about, but really want to extend it out to more members within the Bitstocks family and really make this kind of a safe place of truth at Bitstocks, where anyone and everyone within the Bitstocks team can come and speak about controversial subject matters and matters that we feel is important to the development of humanity on this planet we call Earth. Because everything that we're doing here at Bitstocks and everything we're doing behind Gravity is with a very pro-humanity goal. Otherwise, I don't think any of us really would be here and be as motivated as we are doing the work it is that we are. So I know people know who you are, but Nicola, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, so my name's Nicola, and I handle Michael's socials on social media, but also I have been doing the research as well. So very behind Awakening, very behind Truth and Light. Personally, I'm just gone down rabbit holes after rabbit holes after rabbit holes.
Sounds
I'm
like
guessing.
a trend here.
Yeah. Also, I'm their sister, so that probably doesn't sound very surprising that I've gone down like thousands of rabbit holes. So yeah, I'm just here to kind of steer the conversation, kind of keep you guys on track a little bit. I know we can go off and off. So
hopefully you are essentially playing moderator today.
Yes,
right?
I'm going to be asking some thought-provoking questions, hopefully.
All right, we'll touch on subject matters in a minute. And Antonio, would you like to introduce yourself, mate?
Yes, so my name's Antonio Shillingford, of course featured on the first episode of Truth and Light and also Crypto Time, and I head up the advisory desk here. The last episode, we just spent a lot of time laying down the groundwork.
It was a freestyle.
Yeah,
right?
complete freestyle.
I had a podcast booked. I can't remember who it was with, but for whatever reason, it got last minute cancelled, rescheduled, and we had the whole room set up. And I looked at Antonio, I was like, fuck it.
Yeah.
Do you want to just do some truth talking? And he was like, fuck it, let's do it. Put the cameras on, and we just spoke. And what's funny is it's probably one of the more popular videos that we've uploaded on the Bitstocks YouTube channel in terms of direct feedback that I get when I'm walking around, right?
Yeah.
So if I go to different events, it's always, I can't believe you guys put that Truth and Light episode out there. It was so freaking awesome, right?
Yeah.
And that is really personifies what Bitstocks is about. We talk about this stuff all the freaking time. We talk about it openly and we speak about it in a sense of, all right, look, we understand that this is really controversial. We understand it's quite challenging, but like get involved, like just get involved. Am I the foremost authority of everything there is to say as to how humanity is developing on this planet? Absolutely not. But I want to talk about certain things, and I know we all want to talk about certain things, and we want to encourage people to engage in these topics and in these subject matters. And I think what's unique and what people are eventually going to start seeing is that we're not just talking on these subject matters. There's a lot of development gone behind exploring how certain things are a reality. So predominantly around technology, different form of mathematics, which I just keep parroting on about. But we're actually doing things with the technology. So this is all about really and truly a great demonstration of young minds thinking on old cosmic shoulders, right? And really trying to reconnect with who we really are at a much deeper level, and what we're deciding and choosing to do with our time today. So, all that being said, Nix, hit us off. What's the mandate? What are we talking about today?
Right, so I know that with the last Truth and Light episode, we kind of just laid down a foundation. So I wanted to go in a little bit more detail about some of the things that's happened since then, because that was about 8 months ago. So loads of things have happened since then. So we're going to kick it off with the Epstein case, because obviously I think that's probably the biggest thing that's come of the indictment.
What happened with Epstein? I heard that he killed himself.
I heard he
didn't
killed himself as well. Or there was a lot of different articles that were coming coming out left, right, and
Was
centre.
it wet tissue paper?
Maybe.
That's pretty strong if you bind it in a rope, right?
Or maybe if you chew enough of it.
Have you actually seen a picture of his room as well? It's literally completely bare. Like, I don't know how on earth he managed to kill himself, if this is what's been said. Like, with air, I literally don't know.
It must be true, because I'm pretty sure I've seen memes where on the underside of the Snapple.
I've actually got some. Yeah. This was really funny, actually. You know, with the Snapples where you get the true facts, they did a meme. We'll probably put it up on the screen with the edit, but it's this one here. You've opened your Snapple and you see that. That's hilarious.
All right. So before we jump on the memes and we start like laughing and joking about things, in terms of just how ridiculously obvious it now is, and that's what's funny, right? It's not. He is definitely not a funny subject matter, right? And we'll get into the more serious aspects of it shortly. But I think it's nice to have a humorous aspect to all of this as to how disclosure now is breaking out, because people are waking up. And they're waking up now, ironically, in internet fashion, where memes are just delivering this message to a mass audience that right now, even the most skeptic of skeptical minds are like, dude, this guy didn't kill himself. So it's been great from that aspect. But let's go over the more
So the main thing
deeper.
with the Epstein case that I kind of wanted to cover, I think people get caught up in this whole, did he kill himself? Did he not kill himself? And although that is important, is it really that important? I think the main thing that's important is that how high profile this case was, and the people who have kind of been brought up with this case along with Epstein. And I think it's just really opened a can of worms. So I just wanted to get you guys' opinion on the case in general, and basically just focus on the impact and the consequence of this case as well. I think it's the most important thing.
The whole thing with Epstein is this guy was considered to really be a center point of the manipulation, the control, and the bribery that goes on in the global pyramid of power that we've referenced so much, right? So you have certain individuals who are very instrumental in maintaining the very malevolent integrity of that global pyramid of power. So Epstein and his antics, which are insanely just evil, not to mention illegal, just pure evil, right? You talk about complete solicitation and sexualization of children, right? And he built a global web doing so. And the clients that he catered for and serviced were high-power businessmen and high-power politicians, right? So if you think about, all right, how is this welded? Why? What's the bigger agenda behind why certain things within our society are allowed to resume? Because it's not too far ago, Jimmy Savile was a case, right? And that blew the UK open, and people thought, whoa, hold on, like this guy was so well connected in the BBC, he was getting private access to children's hospitals, he was connected to the royal family. Like, it's people like, whoa, how could this have gone under the radar, right? Yeah. And that really caused a paradigm shift in the UK, which unfortunately has been suppressed again. But then when you have a case like Jeffrey Epstein, and then it's linked now to people like Prince Andrew, Jimmy Savile case all of a sudden isn't so far away again, and those memories are now being very much like you get the Band-Aid ripped off those memories.
And just to follow on from there, because of course on our last episode we spoke about these secret indictments being released, and of course we are now seeing that. And especially with the Jimmy Savile case, the way that people engineered in the earlier days before we had a web. So with the Jimmy Savile case, and what I mean by a web is that came out solely at the time. It was literally a shock to the system, but the way that people process...
When was the Jimmy Savile case? Can you quickly check that? So go on, carry on.
So when people process information... because we are getting hit with so much information all at once, all the time, through all different forms of social media, and even just, for example, coming into work, 9 times out of 10, you're going to see something, newspapers. People's attention spans are very, very limited. So every time one of these cases come up, it comes up for about a week or two, then completely disappears. Now, this is a very interesting case now with the Jeffrey Epstein situation, because now it's linking into so many different people that they can't just sweep it under the rug anymore. So we're now starting to see all of these people pretty much get woken up and become aware of exactly what's happening at the top of these pyramids.
And that's a great positive, right? That is creating awareness, it's bringing awareness. But the negative aspect is the desperation to re-steer attention away from certain events, right?
We're definitely going to get onto that as well with the next point, the next topic that I was speaking about. I think that was a massive distraction from the Epstein case. But we'll
you might as well segue into it, because I don't want to. If you got it there, I didn't realize that's your next point. But
she gave you a little slap on the wrist there.
I felt it. I was like, all right. She's like, keep mandate.
No, we can talk a little bit more about Epstein.
Sure?
I do want to get into it a little bit more.
You.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
That's all right. Continue.
But so as I was saying, right, the smoke and mirrors aspect, right? Now, there are a variety of different things that has been happening recently. Every month there's a new reason to impeach Trump, as a perfect example.
Yeah.
Okay. So the circus that is politics globally right now really is taking center stage. In a time where the most prolific pedophile connected to the most high power people on the freaking planet, news is breaking out, we seem to have political unrest everywhere.
Yeah.
Like quite heightened, like political unrest, absolutely everywhere. So people need to pay attention to these connections. You've got Project. Can I speak about this? Are you sure?
I mean, we're going to speak about it, but go for it.
You can drop the
seed. Drop the little nuggets.
Right. There's just an incredible wave of information that's coming out from insanely credible sources, mainstream sources. A lot of these, like Fox News, is putting out some pretty good stuff.
Yeah, Fox News is really good right now.
So when you have now official channels of distribution speaking some truths, right? The desperation, the wounded tiger is more likely to strike, right? So we're doing great. We're cleaning them up. The swamp is being drained. Indictments and the unsealing of indictments are happening. Right now, was it Ghislaine Maxwell?
Ghislaine Maxwell, I think is how you
She's on
say
the
it.
run. There's a bounty trying to find this woman. They don't think they're saying that they think she's like a Bond villain. You're never going to find this woman, right? What is playing out right now is that Hollywood's you're gonna have to write a movie on this, and the movie I would imagine is gonna have to be censored in comparison to the truth of what's truly going on. That is how crazy what is going on right now.
Yeah.
But this is what I was really trying to signify. Over a year ago now, with the Original Awakening, right? Was forecasting that this stuff is what's going to happen, and people are going to start realizing the crimes against humanity, how the planet has actually been run and maintained up until this point, and why it's important that we pay attention to certain technologies that will actually enable true sovereignty and maintain it, right? Everything's about opportunity. It's a very opportunistic moment right now on this planet that is actually overwhelmingly positive, irrespective of how ugly some of these aspects in these news and these stories that are breaking out are. We should be happy that they're breaking out right now because they're being addressed. For the first time in a long time, they're being addressed. Because we could have spoken about this ages. Publicly, I could have spoken about this 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? Would I have? No. And the reason why I feel more comfortable and we feel more comfortable and we're building something towards doing something about all of this stuff by building great solutions, helping sovereignty and just helping humanity go on to the next stage by combining certain technologies. This is the power right now, which is why it's important, we feel, to speak about these matters. But instead of rambling on, do you want to cover the next point? What's the next point?
Yeah, so let's go for it. So just going on to the point of you basically saying that with the whole Epstein case, you know, the deep state trying to regain control over the narrative in an act of desperation, they've kind of put out this big climate change emergency. And it's we're gonna get into this. Obviously, without talking too much about Greta, I know she is a child, which is incredibly smart. Putting a child at the front of this campaign because you know who's going to talk smack about a child. But yeah, let's just get into it. So basically, climate change campaign, Greta Thunberg, she's 16 years old, she's from Sweden. She's gone to the UN and she's done a speech about climate change. And she said, "You've stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words." So on that, firstly, let's talk about climate change. What's your thoughts on that? And also just what is your opinion on the agenda behind this, apart from it being a distraction? World resource control, let's get a little bit more into depth with it.
Well, short answer, climate change is absolute bullshit. But before I elaborate, you want to elaborate first?
Yeah, so I've actually got some figures behind it as well. So in the last 2 million years, the temperature has alternated between cold and warm interglacial periods that lasted 15,000 years each. Now, over recent geological time, the Earth's temperature has fluctuated naturally between about 4 Celsius and -6 Celsius with respect to the 20th century temperature. So if we are scanning back as far as what is stated there, what is happening right now is natural. End of the day, things move. Things are going to change consistently. As long as it's not out of the norm, which if we scan far back enough, it's not out of the norm. So I personally believe all of this climate change that is coming out now, again, is something to steer a lot of people's thought processes. And not just that, we've seen a few situations arise recently with groups. Now, funny enough, I actually had a conversation with a woman on the train. I can't remember what the actual group name is, but she had one of the stickers on the back of her phone. And I just kind of said that to her, like, can you just tell me a bit about it? Yeah. So she starts explaining to me all of her views. And I was just saying to her, where is the source of your information? Like, well, where's the facts to back up exactly what you're saying to me right now? And she couldn't deliver any of the facts. Where I had a massive issue with that conversation, because of course everyone's opinion is valid. Where I had the issue,
everyone has an opinion.
Yeah. Where I had the
and
issue,
they're entitled to their opinion. That validity is a different subject matter.
And she didn't allow me my opinion. Yeah. When I was having the conversation, I brought up a few situations of, for example, who do you think funds this? Yeah, and straight away it was just conspiracy theory. I was like, in this situation, you're stating to me a bunch of information that you have no validation on, so you can't trace it back and actually validate what is currently happening right now. And as soon as I pose it, you're telling me conspiracy theory. And what straight away went through my head, and this was my own internal thought, I didn't say it to her, but was shepherd and sheep analogy that you come out with. And the herd being the herd, and every now and then you have a single person that will pop their head out of the herd and just be like, hold on, we're going to white gates. They can close those white gates. And I ain't seen anyone come out from there.
Yeah.
And the guy that opened it was the same guy that set the dog up on us.
Exactly.
I was like, this ain't logical. There's something wrong here, boy.
And I just think on that note as well, I think with the whole climate change thing, it has become a political matter when really we should be focusing on the facts. I completely agree. And I know that there were 500 scientists who agreed with this point and went to the UN and said, this is not a mass emergency. But you don't see all of that plastered on mainstream media. You just see Greta Thunberg saying that you've destroyed her childhood.
There's two different aspects to this, right? And they get quite muddled together. So you've got climate change, full-blown bullshit as to how it's being depicted, like human beings are responsible for climate change. It's giving us way too much credit. Fortunately, we're not. We could be with nuclear weapons, et cetera, et cetera. But ultimately, human production is kind of like a fart in the wind, even to like a massive volcano erupting, right? In terms of carbon emissions, therefore having an effect on climate. Environmental issues are a very different subject matter.
Yeah.
So we are absolutely horrific and screwing up Mother Gaia with how we're treating the planet.
Agreed,
right?
yeah.
And that is a consciousness and how we interact with nature problem. Nature can deal with it, right? It's terrible that you have, say, sea turtles with rings, plastic rings around their necks, like straws getting caught in their nose, whales with like massive amounts of plastic being found in their bellies, shoring up on beach shores. that stuff's painful,
Yeah.
right? Walruses climbing up higher points on the mountain and falling off because of climate change, right? Now, you see that stuff and then instantly you think, okay, that is a direct consequence of what we're doing, yeah? On the walrus aspect, no, it's climate change. It's a cyclical thing, right? On plastic caught around a turtle's neck, abso-freaking-lutely. That's us, right? So we need to stop chemical wastage, right? We really should be looking at different avenues of energy production as opposed from nuclear, because all the wastage of nuclear, things like Chernobyl and Fukushima, that's great evidence that we should be looking elsewhere, right? So before, say, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we didn't really say, at least in the public domain, we had the technological capabilities to say, all right, let's look at all of these other avenues, but that's the same can't be said today, right? So we should be having a transition away from these different forms of energy that produce such toxic impacts on the environment. And there needs to be a consciousness shift as to how we coexist with the environment, right? And I think there is definitely a conscious shift with that, like veganism is a huge one. And not just from, I'm super like anti anything to do with animal produce, right? It's more about, okay, well, how is land being catered for animal production, right? And the meat industry and the big corporation big business take on the meat industry, right? And then you look at other things like chemtrails as well, and what that does to land. It actually makes land non-fertile, and the only way that land can be fertile is with like chemical concoctions made by companies like Monsanto.
Edward Snowden recently just said that chemtrails aren't a thing, guys.
Yeah, so Snowden. I've been very suspicious about Snowden for a while. And then the Q dropped a massive confirmation of that. I just didn't understand how he could have done what he apparently done, hacked the NSA with a freaking Rubik's Cube, smuggled data out the NSA with a Rubik's Cube, and then managed to just position himself in Russia and do press releases and arrange all of this stuff before he was even like stationary. It just doesn't make sense.
From a
if you want to
logical
run
standpoint.
for that esque stuff from an intelligence agency, in my unqualified opinion on military operations and how military actions go, or like national security interests and how to best defend them. But at the same time, 2 + 2 is always 4.
Yeah.
Right. And there's a lot of things that says Jell-O pudding when I try and add up the mathematics on what Snowden is and the whole case of Snowden, the things that he said thus far. I just see him as an asset, playing both sides.
Yeah.
I agree.
Definitely.
And that recent podcast, I think, was just a bit of a stunt to, of course, sell off his book and also just add in more disinformation. Because a lot of people do look at him as a figure that, of course, done a whistleblow and released a lot of information. But there's a difference between whistleblowing and just being toxic. And I think he was definitely on the toxic side.
Definitely, because he didn't really speak about anything that people don't know already. Like, he spent literally 20, 30 minutes speaking about how the US hack our phones. We all pretty much know that by now, and we don't really need to know the tech behind it. Like I said, a lot of things without saying anything really.
In iPhones, I'm pretty sure you got a heat map as well, and it literally shows you everywhere that you normally are.
Next point.
Right. Well, I did want to go a little bit more into climate change, but we can kind of just...
No, we could touch on that because if you want, solar radiation? How deep you want to go?
Well, yeah, we can talk a little bit about that, and also just about what really is the agenda with this. Is it just a distraction from the Epstein case, or is there more to it?
It's definitely not a distraction just for the Epstein case. This has been an ongoing thing for ages, right? But it is just another one of those fear-mongering tactics that is used to now tell us there's going to be a charge on the air that you breathe. Everything is fear porn. We have a scarcity-based societal complex. I can't even say it's a scarcity-based economy. We have a scarcity-based societal complex that makes everyone thankful for whatever it is that you are awarded for your position, irrespective of how fruitful your position is or not. Just be thankful that you even have the air in your lungs, right? And everything as to how the world is structured in that sense, from a official capacity, it seems like is just pushing fear porn. And when you do a deeper dive on the science yourself, and then you start looking into solar cycles, and you start realizing that this is a consequence that is a natural occurring thing, and it's happened multiple times within our solar system, and there's actually a lot of evidence of the prior events that this has happened with. Noah's flood, perfect example.
Of course, to add into that, we just went through our solar maximum cycle.
Noah's flood, Noah's Ark, but the flood.
Yeah, we got what you meant.
Yeah, we got it. So, of course, we just literally went through our solar maximum. Again, where we're going to be getting a lot more rays from the sun and be getting hit with it. And, of course, that does have knock-on effects.
CMEs, coronal mass ejections. That's
exactly
the technical scientific term, coronal mass ejections, CMEs.
And of course, that does have knock-on effects. So that's why you are currently seeing more volcanoes erupting, more natural disasters happening, literally typhoons, everything.
Ironically, more craze-charged individuals who are actually being affected by the solar radiation that's coming in as well, which is why I find movies like The Joker really interesting in terms of their timing. This gets really deep.
Yeah.
Right? This gets really, 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 really deep.
When you look into it like this, you really start to understand that everything is really connected.
Yes,
and
so much.
Within, I believe it's roughly about the next 10 years, we're going to be going through our next cycle of solar minimum. And that is going to be where we do have a lot of changes, cosmic. Because
well, this is what the Mayans were referring to, right? So you've got 12 stages of the zodiac, each stage of the zodiac, 2,160 years, 12 stages, 12 times 12160 is 25,920, and that is one master cycle. You have 3 cycles because universe trinities.
Yeah.
So 3 rotations of the master cycle being a zodiac is 25,920 times 3, right? That ushers the golden age. Guess where we are? We are at the end of the 3rd cycle. Sun emits solar flash. Every religious book on this planet are all referencing some form of solar event. Call me a conspiracy theorist, please, right? You don't know your religion, you don't know your history, and the science today, modern day science, actually supports the religious text that seems to cause so many divides between so many different people. But the one aspect that is actually uniformed across the vast majority of our religious texture and teachings is a solar event. And that is what dawned a new age, right? And then you have the reference in Law of One, speaking about the harvest, awakening. And this is the references and little points that we've been pointing at and making and saying, look, like this is a great time where so many people are waking up and there's a reason for it. And there is definitely a connection with, ironically, what they're trying to brand as being negative, climate change and bad. But there's actually a very positive consciousness shift coming in from this energy that is activating people, that is causing discourse like this. Right? Because this isn't just us. This isn't a Bitstocks thing. This is a global thing, and it's beautiful. And more people, Joe Rogan is just like, he's on his own cloud nine right now. He's very on this subject matter, questioning everything, having great discourse with guests and people that he's bringing on, right? And even my circle, people that I'm interacting with and connecting with, is because of this same connection. I'm talking about multiple different aspects of society, from celebrities or otherwise. The common thread is people are waking up. And they got questions, interesting questions.
Because this is now a very open topic. Everyone can talk about it. It's stuff that has been in the news as well. So, of course, you have your mainstream pointers that you can actually direct people to. And in their head, that gives them some form of validation that it's real. Of course, that is part of the issue in general anyway. But what I said in the last episode is the fact that we can now talk about these things openly, without being labeled that you're crazy or that it is just a complete conspiracy theory. Because if there is an amount of evidence that is mounting up over here, and then over here has no evidence, and I'm saying something that is over here, who's the crazy one in the situation when I'm supporting everything that we're saying?
Funny enough, you get that. A perfect example is very much within the Bitcoin SV community, right? You got Craig comes out and he's got a very eccentric, crazy, I get triggered side to him, but the guy is very much supported by facts. Right? He spits facts like a mofo, right? And he's just like stacked, facts stacked, right? And people just don't want to know. And they form their own opinion and they regurgitate what someone else who was ill-informed, who also did not read the facts, said, right? And then what we're going to see beautifully play out is as the awakening happens within the Bitcoin space, you see minds light up, just get activate, because you're going to see it in the markets. There's going to be a flood towards SV, right? And that is literally awakened minds, just pat, 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 pat. And now everyone's focused their channeling into SV, and they're going to realize, all right, moving forward, I remember how long it took for me to be activated, because I was one of those guys like Peter McCormack, spitting and spewing ignorance from my other ignorant friend who was spitting and spewing ignorance, right? So we can actually, in a weird way, kind of see how an awakening happens because we're having the same thing happen in Bitcoin SV right now.
Yeah, and just on that note, to just bring it back a little bit so we don't steer off too much.
Just before we do, don't slap me on the wrist too much. I won't go too much off topic.
We'll see.
But just talking on what you were just saying there. So, of course, everything's pretty much a numbers game as well. So, of course, Craig, he does come out with some colourful language every now and then. But to be honest with you, I completely understand it. And I think he's actually being quite good in the situation, because if you know you're right, but you have a lot of other people just quite frankly talking a bunch of bullshit, but they are getting the majority of people's ears just because they have mass followers.
You deserve to defend your position.
100%. And any way that you want to defend it. And after a while, you are going to get frustrated. And with people continually asking you questions when they're non-knowledgeable about the situation, and then you're explaining it, and all they're trying to do is pick little points on maybe you missaying a word. Gotcha. But I can understand where the frustration comes from. And the way that a lot of the crypto media works is you have a random person that just says a tweet. One news site will take that tweet and then use that as their source and then write a whole piece on it. Then you have another media outlet then refer to the previous article and use that as their source, and it's just a knock-on effect. And of course, with that, from just one single tweet, that is hitting millions of people's eyes.
I give you a perfect example of what's it? A. Pomelino? What's his name?
Yeah.
Like, he's the ignorance indicator for me in this space, right? He has so many freaking thoughts. He never says anything, right? And that is sheeple thinking to the highest degree, right? He just says, short bankers buy Bitcoin, and everyone's like, yes! It makes so much sense. It makes so much sense, my precious! It's just like, dude, what the hell? Like, he said the same thing 24 hours ago, and in the 24 hours, you're like, yes! It's just like, whoa. And I find this stuff funny, right? Because everything's a fractal, right? It's the same patterns repeating themselves in just different places, right? And one thing that I think is going to be really interesting is we have to factor in is next year really is the last sprint for Trump in his first term.
Yeah.
Right? And as confident as I would say I am that he will be re-elected, right? You can't bank on that because, as I said very early in this conversation, you cannot underestimate a wounded tiger. And if you do underestimate a wounded tiger, that is where ego and overconfidence will deal its final blow on you. And you will snap defeat out the jaws of victory. I do think the jaws are very much open right now in terms of victory. But we did not get complacent because that tiger can still freaking strike.
There's actually a video that emerged from Hillary Clinton, and she's got an interview. We won't talk too much about the Clintons. I know that can get very passionate real quick.
Oh, yeah, the fucking shooting target.
But apparently, in her words, right, she's saying that it's a possibility she could run again. I don't know whether this is a joke or not, but she said that, she could beat Trump again, in her words. I don't know what world she lives in where she thought she'd beat him. But
one of the funny aspects that comes from conspiracy theory research is, from what I've heard, it sounds like she can't even run a bath. Don't shoot me, man.
I know they're bleeding in like billions right now, which will hopefully kind of get rid of their power a little bit.
How
as well.
this, and of course, this will be the last part on Trump, and then we'll bury it, and then we'll go on to something else. Yeah, back on track. But with Trump, he done a powerful interview where he was talking about the sort of influence that social media does have and the issues that he had through his first election, whilst he was running, of course, going up against Hillary Clinton. He didn't have to fight Hillary Clinton. That wasn't the battle that he was having at the time. What the true battle was with social media.
Yeah.
Because we're starting to see a lot of censorship in general through all of the different media sites. And if we really think about it, how many different places on the internet do we really experience? We experience Google, Facebook, Instagram, and very rarely do people actually venture out of that.
Yeah.
So if you think about it and think of it as a bit of a funnel, this is the rest of the internet. Mm-hmm. What we're experiencing is this much.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And they control effectively what they want you to see. Mm-hmm. So of course, we know that all of these different platforms have algorithms behind them. These algorithms spit out exactly what it is that they want you to see.
Yeah.
So that is what Trump was really fighting against. The fact that he was getting smear campaigns left, right, and center. And again, we're starting to see the exact same thing again. And during this interview, Trump sent a lot of shots to these media sites, and we're starting to actually see the knock-on effects of that. I'm pretty sure the data analytica scandal that has come out is actually a knock-on effect of that. So this also links into blockchain technology, which we'll get into later on down the line.
Yes, we will be
at
the end of this podcast.
We're really and truly having a purification of everything, and the fact that people can actually have a real true voice and actually voice their real opinions without being censored is an important element to us entering into this new phase.
I 100% agree with that, but I don't think that we should overpromise on just how quickly the alternative is going to come from, say, the blockchain space. I can't see us replacing any one of these platforms anytime soon.
Right, guys, we're actually getting onto this in the end, so I'm gonna.
Oh, you really are a strong moderator.
Otherwise, we're just gonna go off in a room with you two. Right. We can be talking for like 3 hours here, okay? we have a gap.
That's why we brought you here, to keep it confined.
Basically, these are our closed door conversations that we have a lot, so it does branch out everywhere. Really.
It does, really. But I think you guys pretty much introduced the next topic quite well. We're gonna go into mainstream media, really just talk about what's been happening at the moment, because there's a lot of exposure going on with the mainstream and CNN, ABC, etc. But just on the climate change point, I literally just want to say, please do your research. Like you said, everyone is completely entitled to their opinion, but we are sharing these opinions, and I think it's really important that we're validating what we're saying.
She elevated her voice when she thought I was going to talk. Validating.
Why am I being... I'm not some Hitler, okay? I'm really being portrayed as this
The point that I was going to say, actually just in addition, was solar radiation, CMEs, coronal mass ejections. Start your research around that area in relation to climate change, and you'll start unlocking a lot of doors of information. That's it.
And of course, don't take what we're saying for gospel, even though we have done our research. Just take these as points for yourself to go away, do your deep dives, and then come out with your own answers. And of course, if they are different, then we invite people to comment, and we will reply because we have backed up our research.
Yeah, and if you just look into it for a little bit, it does get really interesting. Looking to Greta, her family, family ties, who's
Antifa,
around
right?
her. Yes, and even the person that's with her, majority of her campaigns and her speeches. She's part of the One Foundation. I think her name is Louisa Marie something. I can't remember her surname, but she's tied to the One Foundation, funded by George Soros, managed by Bill Gates. So yeah, we go. Don't really have to say much more.
That's a rabbit hole in itself.
Yeah, exactly.
And look into George Soros as well.
Yeah, really
He
do.
has videos that are there that were recorded way back in the day. Look into how he actually generated his money in the first place. And again, just do the research on the topics.
Great. So let's go into mainstream media now. So mainstream media, specifically CNN and ABC, they're under a lot of backfire at the moment.
Yeah, that ABC thing recently,
Yes,
right?
that was
Ooh.
amazing. It was really good to see. Whether or not I kind of resonated with herself, I think she was kind of
No,
just
she's self-serving.
Yeah, literally.
She
She
was
was
self-serving.
she was upset that she just
Yeah,
didn't get
she
to
didn't
release
get
her
the scoop.
story. Yeah. But okay, let's go into this. So Project Veritas, that's kind of backed by James O'Keefe. He's an American activist doing really, really good work at the moment. He brought out a whistleblower. I think his name is Corey Parch or something like that. Might have to correct me on that one. But he basically released footage of someone in CNN just basically exposing their bias. And then we get Amy Robach, I think is the ABC reporter, and she's the one that's come out with the Epstein coverage. She basically had this story 3 years ago. She really had the facts. She was ready to kind of expose this, blow it up, and that was muted.
Yeah.
And she also stated, which I think is interesting, that it was by ABC and also by the royal family, Buckingham Palace.
Yeah, they went ham on them apparently.
Yeah, which is we're now understanding why, because of Prince Andrew. But so just on the whole mainstream media stuff.
Which they've now denounced. He's potentially relinquishing his duties, his royal duties,
Yeah,
isn't
I've
he?
heard, yeah.
Yeah.
But the Queen has taken that off him because the Queen is so pure.
Bear in mind that he appointed, was it the same PR guy?
Yeah.
And Brief, I think, was that was representing the Epstein side?
Yeah.
Or something along those lines, some close relation. That fact checks, I'm not even sure 100% on that one, but I'm pretty sure that I read that is the actual case, which is just
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
Right. But go on, carry on, as you're saying.
Yeah, so what's your kind of take on this whole exposure of mainstream media? How do you think it's aiding mass enlightenment? I think is a good way to kind of...
Here's the thing, here's the way I see it. It's irreparable, but we have to be realistic that they maintain the density right now.
Yeah.
So they've got all the strings connected to them. So the only way that those strings are going to decouple and decouple in an aggressive way is when we build genuine solutions that do not feel any different than the ones that we are replacing. They should be better, right? And we're not there yet. I wouldn't want to be one of those companies building the next social media network. In fact, it's one of those businesses that I just have no interest in. I'll invest in one. But to run one, that's just a freaking headache. No way in hell would I be interested in running a social media company. But don't let that dissuade you. Please go off and do it. Because we definitely need one. We definitely need a replacement of these platforms. However, I have some really interesting ideas as to how to be an arc and how to bridge between where the density is and where we need to be, but having a bridge in the interim to give people what they want, which is sovereignty over their user base, right? Because I actually heard Joe Rogan speaking about this, and he went super old school and started speaking about he's recreating his email list, right? He's recreating his email subscriber list, right? And that's because he is fearful of being deplatformed by YouTube. Like, this guy is Joe Rogan. He's got the most successful, best podcast on the planet. And he is terrified that his hard work in order to get there, think how much work the guy's put in. He's got a crazy schedule. He's everywhere, right? And he's put in all that work and he feels insecure that his work and the fruits of his work, which is his subscriber base, is going to be taken away from him and he'll be deplatformed. So he's trying to back it up by recreating an email list. right? So I think that leaves huge opportunity, areas of opportunity for like someone to like create a bridge. And I got some good ideas around that, but I can see the solutions coming. But the fact that we are even being forced to have these entrepreneurial thought processes is very indicative of the time that we're in right now. And when you know that there is a very close, cozy, married, in fact, it's not even like ongoing, it's a full-blown, we're married relationship between mainstream big banks and now social media. Social media used to be perceived as a platform of the people, independence, right? Where an independent artist can flourish, where you can connect to your user base on a peer-to-peer basis. You can build and exchange value with your user base directly. But now what we've realized is that big corporate interests, yet again, the big four banks, the same guys who own, plus 90% of mainstream media, 5 corporations, was it Disney, Time Warner, CBS? These companies are also the banks actually behind these companies are also the same major investors in social media. Who are the banks? It's Fidelity,
Vanguard Group, BlackRock,
there's one more.
State Street.
So you've got these 4 major major banks, major shareholders in media, got mainstream media locked down, but also the largest shareholders in Facebook and Google.
Yeah.
I'm not sure on Amazon, haven't checked Amazon, but Facebook and Google.
Amazon's another subject.
Oh, all right, maybe next episode.
But we can go into so much detail about Facebook, Google, Amazon. They're all, it's crazy, the information that you can kind of find out.
And funny enough, this actually ties into the bigger agenda. And a bigger agenda is actually something that we're directly building a solution towards, is that the currency of today is data. It's no longer oil, right? And that's a good thing now, only because of Bitcoin, which is what is going to pee off these organizations, because the reason why the system is being so corrupted and so manipulated and the data is like gold of this new age is every single one of these organizations is trying to build artificial intelligence. Whether they have an understanding of artificial intelligence or not is irrelevant, right? But I've heard high-power CEOs talk about AI gods and worshiping AI gods. And this is ultimately what their mission is. So they're building their data sets, Facebook, Google, Amazon, all building their data sets. And data it's a benign thing. Right, the curation and articulation of data makes it intelligence, right? You then need to be able to articulate that intelligence into something that is genuinely useful. And this is the push that all of these major companies do. NVIDIA's do. Even Bitmain's moved into this field, right? So this is really and truly where the huge kind of entrapment is, where the mark of the beast is, because now you talk about implants and all the rest of it, you combine that with data sets that you have no sovereignty over the streams, that is the beast being built, okay? And we are what feeds the beast. We are the intelligence of the beast, and it will therefore be used against us, right? Your chip can be switched off. The concept is actually great. We are going on a technological whirlwind in terms of technological advancements on the planet, and that's good, it's positive. The issue is sovereignty over the data stream of that data, because now every single human being on the planet are their own little oil field. And when you have the right tools at your disposal to unlock your imagination and don't limit your imagination based on some corporate bank balance, now I just directly input it and I'm building, creating value, right? Because I am an oil field now, okay? Having the tools at your disposal and an economic system with an equilibrium of being able to trade and transmit value across borders easily means people in Africa are individually, genuinely sovereign and their own individual little oil fields. And they could trade their intellect globally around the world. That's where we're heading towards. What enables that to be free and empowering with no marking of the beast and actually making the beast our bitch is by taking all of these data sets and putting it on top of Bitcoin And now you have a pooling of data and you have an opt-in function where people are actually incentivized to aid and add intelligence to the system. And these guys are ironically building the infrastructure that will enable the freeing of humanity, not in how they envision, because they built it for entrapment, right? And Bitcoin will unlock it for the complete opposite. It literally genuinely will take the beast and make the beast a bitch and become a public servant. And that's why I'm so gung-ho on certain technologies and combinations of certain technologies, because I am not doom and gloom. I am not negative. I am not depressed in any way, shape or form about the state of reality on the planet right now. I think what's going on is amazing. I think there's a lot of light being activated. And just it's super positive.
Just on that note as well, we've seen that recently, really, with the dark web bust. You know, but the DOJ,
awesome.
Department of Justice, amazing. They tracked down the administrators of the website by tracking transactions on the blockchain. So I just think that's a great point to end it on. And also, I just kind of on that point, a little bit more depth into what we're doing here at Bitstocks. How do you think that's going to kind of aid the data ownership problem that we're having at the moment? Because that's a massive issue. So I know you kind of touched on it just now, but kind of reining it in more to Bitstocks and Gravity.
I'll jump in there.
Yeah.
So of course we had that situation come out where of course a lot of the people had to answer for the crimes that they were doing on the dark web, and everything that you was explaining there, this is a real world use case, a real world situation of that actually happening. So I've actually got the article here from when it actually first came out, and the article itself is from Bloomberg, which I'm sure they'll bring up on the side of the screen, but I'll just read out quite a lot of the article, to be honest with you, because it is all completely relevant. US and Korea authorities broke up one of the world's largest markets for child pornography. Something that, of course, is a big talking topic at the moment, because a lot of it is getting exposed on all different levels, predominantly what this talk was really about. Now, the US unsealed an indictment against Jong Woo-sun, 23, who prosecutors say operated the darknet market that accepted Bitcoin and distributed more than 1 million sexual explicit videos involving children. Sun, a South Korean national, is serving 18 months in prison after being convicted. Personally,
is that it?
Yeah, don't think that's anywhere near long enough. But the reason I'm just assuming here on why he got such a shorter sentence is because he helped them expose a lot more, maybe. So that's just my assumption.
There'll be 18 in Guantanamo at least.
Yep, 100%. And I'm pretty sure when he gets in there, it's not going to be the best of experiences. Now, since agents shuttered the site in March 2018, authorities have arrested 337 site users around the world. They were in countries including the UK, Germany, Brazil, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. And in nearly 24 US states, according to the US authorities, the UK government said people in 38 countries were arrested. Authorities say they rescued at least 23 minor victims in the US and the UK and Spain who were being actively abused by users of the site. Now, just to jump a bit lower down on this actual article. Now, Sun's site called Welcome to Video contained more than 250,000 unique videos. Of those, 45% contained new images that were previously unknown. So completely new images to the internet. Now, agents from the IRS Criminal Investigations Division, also involved, Don Fort, chief of the division, said they determined the location of the darknet server in South Korea, identified Sun, and found the physical location of the website. They also unmasked users hiding behind Bitcoin transactions, Fort said. Our agency's ability to analyze analyzed the blockchain and de-anonymized Bitcoin transactions allowed for the identification of hundreds of predators around the world. Thought said the scale of this crime is eye-popping and sickening. So exactly what we've been talking about this whole time, what Bitcoin really is and what this segment is called, shining light on everything.
I don't think there's a better thing to end on than that. That's light bulb switch on, shadows casted away. And this is why we want to have this setting, to have these conversations, to speak truth, to switch on lights. And I want to say personally to the both of you, because there's going to be many other employees at Bitstocks that are going to be joining us in this roundtable, so it's not always going to be us three. But the reason why I wanted to start off with these guys is because these guys have obviously known me my whole life. I've known you guys, I've known you guys your whole life. Yeah. And you know how crazy I've been over the time. And you know just how important what we're doing here really is. You understand the mission, and you also understand every single dimension of that mission, and you understand the different levels of risk on some of the different levels of our mission. But at the same time, you share the same faith in humanity as I do, and you also understand that it is a collective effort. And what you guys are helping me and us do here at Bitstocks is to spark that initiation, to spark that spin, to get hopefully people inspired to engage in discourse on these subject areas and just get people thinking. So you guys, personally, to both of you, I love you, I appreciate you, and let's do more of this. Let's get more engagement, let's get more discourse going, because I think was it 8 months you said?
Yeah, about 8 months ago, the last
Let's make a commitment. We've got to do at least one of these every single month, right? So we can assure there's going to be at least one of these going out every single month. And we'll try to increase it even much more from there onwards. But this has been awesome.
Yes, it's been great.
So, peace, love, and light, guys, as always. Great.
It's good.
Peace and love.
Peace and love.